Well, I didn't realize our troops had to pledge allegiance to Israel, but apparently they do. Sergeant First Class Jonathan Estridge is a highly decorated U.S. Army veteran with over 20 years of service as a combat medic and in advanced cybersecurity leadership. He served 2 deployments to Iraq and was later stationed in Qatar in 2019. But he was fired from active duty position and placed under investigation for several anti-Israel and anti-ICE Facebook posts, as well as a post showing support for Palestine. Sergeant First Class Estridge, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
So tell us about what happened. Right now, what is your status with the military?
Right now, my status is still it's basically I guess suspended from from anything. Basically, what they did was they dropped me down to TPU status, which is where I would drill one weekend a month. Um, my attorney submitted the paperwork to appeal everything yesterday. So, well, actually Saturday. So hopefully the um, the general will be looking over my paperwork today, and hopefully I'll get reinstated back to my active duty position that I was doing. Um, but at this point, I don't know. I'm still waiting to see because my attorney submitted it to the unit's attorney, and they have to overlook it. Um, and then they'll send it over to the general, and he'll look at it, and he'll make his final decision once he
Okay.
sees everything.
Are you getting paid right now? How does this work?
I am not.
Wow.
So when they dropped me from orders, they dropped me on August 29th. And so that was the last day that I got paid.
So you've already done 20 years. We're going to of course get to why they've done this to you, but I just want to clarify. So you've already done 20 years. That's enough to retire, right?
Well, I actually, when I joined the military in 2004, I joined the National Guard. So retirement works a little bit different in the Guard than it does on active duty. So right now, I have, even though I've been in for 20 years, went I had a small break in service, which messed up my years with the reserves. So basically, you have to get a good year for it to count toward retirement. So I have 18 good years in the Guard and Reserves that would count toward retirement. And then I have 7 years of active duty service between my deployments and the active duty time I was currently doing at my current unit. Because I've been on active duty for the last 4 years with them.
Okay.
And it was to fill a position that they needed filled. And so I've been in that role for the last 4 years. I've been in the unit for almost 5 years. And, it was a shock to me when I got pulled in to this officer's office and told, we're dropping you from orders and you're being investigated as a possible threat to national security,
What?
all over Facebook post.
Okay.
And so the, and that was the primary reason that I ended up doing the TikTok video in uniform, was because to me, being told being investigated for national security, that's, to me, that sounds like treason, which comes with a life sentence, possibly even the death penalty. So, of course, I did a TikTok video because I felt that I had nothing to lose at that point. Because I was afraid the FBI was going to kick in my door and take me to prison, basically, all over Facebook post. And so after I did the TikTok video, I got called back into the office, the same officer, and they gave me a GOMAR, which is a general officer reprimand, for making the TikTok video. And they went back over my initial counseling when they fired me. And so I directly asked him, I'm like, I'm looking at this counseling, and nowhere on here does it say I'm being investigated as a threat to national security. And that was when the officer admitted that he misspoke, that only my security clearance was being investigated because of my post online, but I wasn't being investigated as a threat to national security. They were just investigating whether or not I was going to get to keep my security clearance. And
Okay.
it's like that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big difference
Right. Right.
because one carries a life sentence and one doesn't.
Hmm.
You know, so that's a pretty big mistake to make. And not to mention that when they called me back to the unit, they actually had two police cruisers in the parking lot and four police officers. There were two in each vehicle. So I almost didn't even stop when I went back to the unit because as soon as I saw the cops there, I was afraid that that's what they were doing. They were going to arrest me um, for treason, basically, based on what that officer had told me.
Right.
But thankfully, when I walked in, they waved at the police and the police stayed in the parking lot. Although they did try to confiscate my phone, which I don't know what that was about. But as soon as I walked in, they said I had to hand over my phone. But I left it in my vehicle because I was afraid they were going to try to confiscate it. So I just told them, like, I left it in my car. And that was when they took me upstairs and gave me the Gomar and then reiterated the initial counseling, which they tried to deny it was about Israel at that point, but yet they gave me a copy of all the posts again, and the majority of the posts were anti-Israel posts. So if it's not
Hmm.
about Israel, why are
Then why?
you turning
Yeah.
around and giving me a copy of the same post and telling me I can't have this stuff posted?
Okay. So let's back up. The first time they pulled you in and they said you're now being investigated, what did they show you a printout of the posts at that time?
They did not. No, because they said it was an active investigation, so they said I couldn't have it. And then
Did they tell
they,
you what the posts were that were under question?
not at that time, no.
They
I
just
a
said you're being investigated for posting on social media, or like what? I mean,
Yes,
obviously you'd say, "Wait, why are you investigating me? What did I do wrong?" And what was their answer at that first meeting?
that I was being investigated for posts on social media.
And
And
they
so
didn't
I
give you an idea of what the posts were or the topic of the posts or anything in that meeting.
No, I had asked for a copy. They said I couldn't have a copy because it was an active investigation. They told me to come back the next day to go over information with my replacement. And so when I came back the next morning was when they finally gave me a copy of all the posts because JAG had told that officer, you don't have a choice. If he's requesting it, you have to give it to him.
Okay. So then they gave you a printout of the posts. How many posts were they flagging?
At that point, the first time they gave me, it was 13 posts.
Okay.
And seven, six were anti-Israel, and then one was pro-Palestine
Uh-huh.
out of the 13. And then the other six, four of them were anti-ICE, and
Uh-huh.
then one was thanking the president of Mexico for sending rescuers to Texas during the flood that FEMA didn't respond to, which made no sense to me. Why can't I thank the president of Mexico when she
Yeah, that is
just saved
strange.
American lives?
Yeah.
And one of them was a Bruce Springsteen um, YouTube link where he was talking about how America has fallen because of everything that's going on in our country right now, and they said I couldn't have that posted.
Okay, so 13 posts, 7 were well, 6 were anti-Israel, 1 was pro-Palestine, 4 were anti-ICE, 1 was thanking Mexico, and 1 was Bruce Springsteen. And these were the
Yes,
13 posts that they had flagged. And then after that, you made this TikTok video in uniform, which we don't have that, but we're going to grab that. We're going to play that at the end here so that we can see what you're talking about exactly. But so then you made a TikTok video after you received these posts, after you
yes,
knew what you were being investigated for.
yes,
Okay. Then they pull you in again and they said, and now they're upset that you've actually made a TikTok video in uniform.
yes.
And what did they say about that specifically?
They said that I misrepresented why I was in trouble, which I didn't because the officer told me I was being investigated as a threat to national security, which is exactly what I put in the video.
Yeah.
But they also said I misrepresented it because I said it was about anti-Israel posts, but six of the posts were anti-Israel, one was
Right.
pro-Palestine. That's the majority of the posts. So if it's not
Yeah.
about anti-Israel, then or if it's not about Israel, what is it? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, and then you said that they gave you another printout of more posts. So the second round
So
of printouts, how many were there?
there was two. There were two more, I believe, um, And those two I had actually deleted 2 months prior. So there's no way for them to have gotten them from my social media, except I had friended the former JAG on Facebook. And after my TikTok video came out, or possibly before, I really don't know, he sent those posts to my command,
Okay.
which had been deleted, for, like I said, over 2 months. So there's no way the commander, when he initially found all my posts, could have gotten those because they were no longer posted.
And what were those about?
One was a picture of the Confederate flag, and it said that it was the flag of losers. Um, and then another one was a picture of Elon Musk basically with a puppet hand controlling Trump.
And you're not allowed to post those. Why can't you say that the Confederates lost and call them losers? I mean, they did lose.
I know, and it doesn't make any sense to me why that would be an issue, but apparently it was. But again, I had already deleted those posts, so it doesn't even make sense why they would give me posts that had been deleted for months, except for this JAG officer he had sent the post to the
Uh-huh.
commander.
So the second time they'd only included these other two posts, in addition to the 13.
Yes.
Okay. And now, so which clearly still a lot of this has to do with Israel. I mean, like you said, the majority of the posts they've added on these other two, but whatever. I mean, clearly they've been targeting you for these. I mean, why can't you criticize Israel? Did you ask them about that?
I did not, because, of course, like I said, they denied that it was about Israel. So even if I had asked them that, they would have
How could
probably
it?
not
How could they
commented.
deny this? They literally included these posts in their investigation and gave that to you as evidence of
Yeah.
your wrongdoing. So how could it not be about Israel? I mean, otherwise those posts wouldn't be there. I mean, it's one thing if they handed you a sheet of posts and none of them were about Israel, but then you said, I think this is actually about Israel and you guys are just finding something else. Okay, fair enough. You guys could have a debate over that. But there's no debate. I mean, they literally handed you a list of 13 posts and more than half of them were about Israel.
And the thing about that is, I have other posts about Ukraine. Those weren't cited.
Okay, I
Like,
was wondering
so,
about that. I was wondering, did you post anything that was like that could be construed as pro-Russia, right? Anything that's kind of against the Ukraine war, criticizing our support for the Ukraine war.
so no,
Um,
I have things posted that are pro Ukraine and anti
okay,
Russia, and it's just like that stuff wasn't flagged. That stuff didn't matter. So explain to
right.
me how posting about Israel's wrong, but posting about Ukraine and Russia is not.
Yeah. Well, I would be more curious if you knew somebody who had posted anti-Ukraine support, and if they got in trouble. Because you posting pro-Ukraine and against Israel makes sense to me if their reasoning is, well, you're not allowed to speak up against basically wars we support. So even though we're technically not supposed to be at war, we're clearly at war, and so you're not allowed to criticize the US war machine essentially. So I'd be curious. I haven't heard of anybody posting, criticisms of Ukraine and our support for Ukraine and getting reprimanded for that. I haven't heard of a case like that. But I'm curious if you know of somebody in the military who was reprimanded for criticizing our support for Ukraine.
I do not know.
Okay. There was somebody criticized and, well, he was reprimanded for criticizing the withdrawal of Afghanistan. I think that is something that was going on as well, as any criticism of our withdrawal or how it happened or anything like that was also flagged. But it just goes to show that the US, but that's US military. But that's different because that's an actual US military operation. We were in Afghanistan. We had to pull our own troops out of Afghanistan. We're not involved in Israel, right? I mean, we're not supposed to be anyway. We're supposed to just be selling them weapons, and that's kind of the idea is that we're just an ally that sells them weapons. But I think you would be allowed to criticize the UK, for example, or Spain or Australia. I mean, certainly you wouldn't get in trouble, I would think, criticizing Russia or China. But an ally, even an ally, I don't know if you'd get in trouble for questioning the UK, for example, which is a main ally of the United States. Do you think you would get in trouble if you posted anti-UK
No,
messaging?
I don't think they would say anything about it. I think the problem is that Israel has basically silently invaded the U.S. since the 1950s. They they control our government, and I
Right.
think that that's what has a lot to do with this. Is that Israel has their fingers in everything in the U.S. And it's crazy because they're the only country that I know of that has actively attacked the U.S. because in 1967 they attacked the USS Liberty, and around 200 U.S. soldiers were killed, and they got away with it.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a false flag operation. They were trying to make it look like Egypt was the ones behind the attack, but the U.S. knows it was Israel, and they did nothing about it. The U.S. let them get away with it. If that was any other country, we would have declared war and destroyed that country.
Yeah.
But Israel got away with it. It makes no sense. But they kill our soldiers, they kill our people, and they get away with it. We still hand them money, we still hand them weapons. They have American prisoners in their prisons right now. They have a 16-year-old boy, American citizen, in an Israel prison, and the U.S. is doing nothing about it. And he was arrested for possibly throwing rocks. 16-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has done nothing. If that was Russia that had a 16-year-old child in custody, the U.S. would have already had that child back.
Yeah.
But because it's Israel, they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, so what does your lawyer say as far as like when you obviously when you sign up for the military and you pledged your allegiance, were you required to pledge allegiance to all of the allies of the United States?
No,
Not just the United States, but is it like to the US and its allies?
no. In
Okay.
fact, when we pledge our allegiance, it is strictly to the U.S. Constitution. It's not even
Mm,
to the U.S., it is to that document that we
mm.
are swearing our allegiance. That's why part of what we say is that we'll defend the country from enemies, both foreign and domestic. Because
Mm.
if there's domestic enemies, we are supposed to be protecting the country from those domestic enemies.
Yeah, I think that's an important point because right there it's I mean, look, all of the leadership in the military could have gone rogue and they all could be anti-constitution, right? And it is I mean, we saw this even with the Holocaust. It was having um the excuse of, well, I was just doing as I was told is not an excuse. That's actually not considered an excuse. And even if you're an underling and you're not supposed to take orders if the orders are bad, if the orders are wrong, if the orders are immoral, or if the orders are against the US Constitution, right? So that would be why I think that you then swear your allegiance to the Constitution, because even the leadership, even military brass could be corrupted. I mean, anybody can. I mean, that's the whole idea, right?
Yes.
So, so that's an important point. So, what does your attorney say are the prospects for you moving forward?
She said that I did nothing wrong. She submitted the our rebuttal on Saturday, and it states that everything I had posted were well within my First Amendment rights. That I did not break any UCMJ rules. Because another thing, when they counseled me, they cited multiple UCMJ violations, and she said that none of those were. I did not violate any of those UCMJ um, articles at all. And so she submitted that, and hopefully, when the general reviews it, hopefully he'll realize that the unit was in the wrong in firing me, and hopefully I'll get reinstated.
I mean, this kind of, I mean, what are I mean, I hope so, but you're going through a military court and it's the military that's done this. It doesn't seem like it's an unbiased, fair court system. I mean,
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It's not unbiased. And so, will they follow the law as it's written? I don't know until I
mm,
hear back from them. I hope to hear back from them soon because, like I said, we just submitted the everything to them on. My attorney submitted it on the 27th, so hopefully we'll hear something soon.
okay, how consequential is this for you? Worst case scenario, they come back and they're like, "Nope, you're still fired," basically, from active duty. What do you lose anything financially? Do you lose? I know you said that you've had 18 years, So you're just a couple of years away from actual retirement, right? So what are the consequences of all of this for you? Or is it just, um, I mean, hopefully your answer is none, that there really aren't, but that this is a principal issue, that the United States government is firing people because they're criticizing a foreign government, a foreign country, which should outrage and does outrage many Americans.
So for me, I'll still be eligible for retirement from the reserves in 2 years because I'll be at 20 years. Obviously, a reserve retirement is considerably less than an active duty retirement. Like I said, I've been on active duty with this particular unit for almost 4 years now. I had planned after my active duty time here was over, I had planned to go AGR, which is active guard and reserves. But I don't even know if I'll be allowed to do that now. And like, because my plan was I was going to stay until I was 60. I was going to go AGR and finish out, go from my 7 years of active duty time to I think it'd be right around 23 years of active duty time I would have if things had worked out how I had planned.
Yeah.
But since they fired me like they did, I don't know if I'll even be eligible to go AGR now if I don't get reinstated. And so yeah, it changes a lot of things for me, a lot of my plans that I had planned. But as far as them, like, unfortunately, this administration is firing people left and right, not just for criticizing Israel, but also for other things. Like several FBI members have recently been fired because they took a knee for a George Floyd event. And it's
Yeah.
just like, how do you do that? There is no there's no legal reason to fire an FBI agent for taking a knee. There's not.
Yeah. No, I mean, part of protecting the Constitution is protecting our right to free speech. And that includes speech that none of us agree with, right? I mean, we have to be able to protect the minority voices, those that unpopular opinions. That's part of protecting the US Constitution. I'd be interested if this general comes back and says, nope, you're in the wrong, but it is actually a violation of the Constitution. Is there anything else you could do? Like, can you take this to civilian court, like Supreme Court, and have them rule on First Amendment violations within the US military?
Well, there's still other appeal routes through the military. But yes, I have talked to my military attorney about suing in civilian court, and so she is actively trying to find me an attorney that will do it pro bono
Yeah.
because she believes that I do have a case. And of course, the a lot of people have told me they hope they said they're sad that this happened to me, but they hope that it does go to the Supreme Court just because it would set precedents for future um, things like this to not happen again.
Right.
Because right now in this country, our First Amendment rights are under attack by
And it's
this
so
administration.
totally. I mean, I think they're under attack by all the administrations for different reasons. It just depends on it's just whatever speech they don't like, and it changes from administration to administration. And what should protect us is that Constitution. And one of the important aspects of this, I would think, is that you'd think that the military brass would want to know what their soldiers are thinking. You'd think that they'd want to know their attitude, because if you march them into war, for example, like on behalf of Israel, and let's say you're not the only one speaking out, but a whole bunch of you are, and it turns out the majority of enlisted, or the majority of enlisted are sitting there like, we don't like this, we don't support this, and then they're going to try to march us into war with it. How much morale do you think that the military or that the enlisted are going to have if you're throwing them into a war that they don't like? But how would you know they don't like it if you don't allow them to speak up and say that they don't like it?
And that's
It seems
true.
like that's an important point, an important, I mean, free speech seems to be an important mechanism for figuring out what the morale would be within your own ranks.
And that's true. And you would think that they would want to know that. And it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me why they wouldn't. We do have like yearly command climate surveys, but in the climate surveys, they never ask us about how we feel about, a war or a certain country. Like that's never part of it.
Mm.
Um, for me, and my reason for supporting Palestine is the same reason I joined the military, and that's to protect the innocent and the weak. And the Palestinian people, to me, they're innocent and they're extremely weak because they don't have a military. Their land was stolen from them. And, this has been going on for 77 years. It's, obviously the genocide part that's happening right now, that's been happening over the last 2 years, is really bad. But this has been happening to them for the last 77 years. It's not new. It's just that now we see it live streamed to our phones because of TikTok and Instagram and other, YouTube, other feeds that we can see. And unfortunately, I think that that's a big reason why the U.S. is pushing for TikTok to be purchased, is so that they can cover up Israel's crimes that are going on right now against the Palestinian people. Because there's no other reason to buy TikTok, for the U.S. to buy TikTok. It's not a national security risk to the U.S. It's a national security risk to Israel. Because
Israel's buying TikTok. Israel's buying TikTok.
Exactly.
It's not the U.S. Yeah, it's Israel. They said the Chinese can't have it, but the Israelis apparently can. So that's where we're at with that now. And probably going to see a lot of censorship there. But,
there already has been censorship. Like I had a post of mine immediately flagged because it was anti-Israel, calling Israel terrorist. And it was right after they changed the algorithm on the 13th of September. Like prior to the 13th, I had other posts posted that said, similar things that didn't get flagged. But right after that change was made, all of a sudden they flagged it, threatened to delete my account if I continue to post stuff against Israel like that.
Oh, wow. Sergeant First Class Estridge, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. I wish you the best in this journey. I hope that the military does the right thing and protects free speech. That is part of the Constitution. And I hope that they understand that they did also swear, this general that is the one deciding, also did swear allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. That does include the First Amendment, which is the First Amendment for a reason. So not the 10th Amendment, it's the First Amendment, the very first one that they stuck in there for that very reason. We have to be able to criticize and speak up, and you've done that, and you're being punished for it. And that is so very un-American to have this happen to you. So we wish you the best in this journey. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you sharing your story. Good luck to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. So after 20 years of service in the military, yesterday I got pulled into an officer's office and counseled for posts that I have on my social media. During the counseling, they told me I'm under investigation as a threat to national security. When I asked for proof, like what the posts were yesterday, they refused to give it to me. They made me come back today to further go over stuff. They gave me the proof, and the proof they gave me are anti-Israel posts. Now, when I joined the military, I took an allegiance to support the United States of America. I did not ever take an allegiance to support Israel. But yet, I am deemed a threat to national security because I do not support Israel and their genocide against the Palestinian people. Yes, you heard that right. I am deemed a threat to national security because I don't support Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Since when does not supporting a foreign nation get a U.S. soldier investigated for being a threat to national security?
Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.